Although we are still very young in this kind of game, we also know that we can't see people, and even coaxed and deceived Little Red Man to the back of the General Temple, and then, with a glass marble, I reached an agreement with Little Red Man. He was a patient, I was a doctor, the monkey was watching from the sidelines, and when I was about to take off Little Red Man's pants, there was a roar from Little Red Man's mother outside. "What are you little bastards doing over there? You goddamn little bastards. See that I'm not going to clean you up." I didn't have time to cover the Little Red Man's mouth yet. He said yes. "Mother, they took off my pants. Play real games too." This shout. The monkey and I lost 2.5 souls. He turned around and tried to find a place to hide. Look around except for the walls. It's a bare stone wall. Where to hide? That's what I have to say. There is such a calamity in human life. I can't hide even if I want to. Just at the sound of the footsteps of Little Red Man's mother. "It's getting closer." The monkey shouted at me. "Hurry up here, there's a hole here. Drill in." Turn around and look. The outer wall of the ancient temple behind us. A hole was cut out of the bottom brick. It's just the right size to fit a 6-year-old. Me and the monkeys. They got into it. Wait until we get in. Little Red Man's mother has already rushed to the knife with murderous anger, while yelling at the two of us for being hooligans. On the other hand, he dragged the Little Red Man out. The monkey and I sat on the ground, and we didn't dare to come out. It's been a while. The two of us are afraid to go out, because we both want to go home. You will definitely pass by the door of the Red Hero's house. Where are you going to run? The monkey advised me to say, "We'll go back when it's dark." It should have been around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Xiao Hongxia's mother actually came to her for dinner. Dinner in the countryside is relatively early. Wait until Hongxia's mother is gone. Suddenly, we realized that we were already inside that ancient temple. At first, come in and only pay attention to the outside. Now look up. There are many traces of smoke and fire on the walls of the temple. This hall was supposed to be the main hall at that time. The top of the main hall is carved with hollow wood, carved with Tai Chi Bagua, gourd, crane, etc. The door to the main hall was tightly closed, for the door had a big brass lock on the outside. I don't know what era it was locked. Anyway, I've never seen this temple door open, so I never knew what was going on inside this temple. The walls are painted with murals on all sides. There are 2 sides of the mural that are no longer distinguishable. Only the person on the fresco on the right can still make out a rough appearance. The old man on this mural holding the dust should be 2 old man. It took a long time. This so-called General Temple has Taoist murals. Explain. The temple was supposed to have been a Taoist temple before. What made the two of us even more horrified was that the whole hall was empty, except that there is a large pearl-brown coffin in the middle. The ash on it had fallen in a full layer. The smell of mold in this room was very heavy. Fortunately, there is a bright tile overhead. Light from outside was able to penetrate through the cracks in the bright tiles. I can still distinguish a lot of things, but in this environment, we 2 children are just scared enough to be bold. Especially the monkeys. Turn around and run. Got out of that little hole again. When I was leaving, glancing at the blackened wall. Lines on the walls. It seems to be made of a kind of word or symbol. I couldn't help but look at it a few more times. I wasn't in school at the time. Illiterate words, but I was attracted to things that looked like words. There was a blank space left in my head. The urging of the monkey outside sounded, pulled me back to reality. Take another look at the big coffin. I couldn't help but get out of here. Why have you been in there for so long and still haven't come out? I thought you had been captured by a ghost. It's been a long time. You see, the sun is going down. That's when I realized. It's been nearly half an hour since the monkey came out, and I was alone in it for half an hour. But I don't feel the time at all. When the two of us passed by the door of Little Red Man's house, inevitably scolded by his mother. It's the little rascals who are shameless, but I didn't care at all. My mind is full of what I see in the temple. Those things like words, that mural, and the big coffin. When we were very young, the adults told us, "You can't go to the general's temple to play." We asked why. Adults always say don't ask. Just don't go over there. The strangest thing about me is, it's obviously a Taoist temple. Why is it called the General's Temple? I said hello to the monkey. Go back, don't say we went to the General's Temple. Otherwise, you will be beaten. The monkey sticks out its tongue and says it won't speak. We also hooked up. And then they went home. When I got home, nothing unusual happened. Mom thought I was going to the wild again. It didn't matter. Until dinner in the evening, Little Red Man's mother came to my house. Now I know. It's over. Really. Her mother's big mouth began to speak. How the monkey and I treated her daughter. Tell my mom to discipline me well or something. Actually, I really didn't see Red's ass that day. I haven't taken my pants off yet. Here he is. But no power can be imagined. In a few years, the monkey still took off Little Red's pants. My mom apologized to someone else. On the other hand, he twisted my ears. I'm scared of my mom. She has 3 tricks against me. Twist the ears. Take a straight duck with bamboo and pump my ass. There is also kneeling. Look at today's situation. I can't escape any of the 3. Sure enough, after Little Red Man's mother left, I've been lifted into the air with my ears twisted. Then it's kneeling. I honestly knelt down. Because this is the time to resist. It's equivalent to beckoning the bamboo duck to rush at me. My mom ignored me either. Just warned me not to go there again. In the end, it was my grandfather who interceded. It was made to stand up. My grandfather felt very sorry for my grandson. In those times of material scarcity, he always secretly bought me snacks to eat. Or when stewing meat. Get me some fresh to eat. Grandpa hugged me. Rubbed my already numb knees. I asked him, why can't you go there? Grandpa said, haunted over there. Back then, when someone set fires, the only thing is that the hall was not burned. The one who took the lead in setting the fire. It didn't take long to find himself hanged on the beams of that hall. From now on, the gate of the temple was locked in the village. I asked Grandpa, whose coffin is it? But when my grandfather heard me carrying the coffin, it's taboo. We won't talk about it. It didn't take a few days. I started to get a rash. Then there was a high fever, vomiting, and diarrhea. My mom carried me to the hospital. The doctor said it was a viral flu. It's an injection and a pill. But the illness is not only not better, it's heavier. I'm already thinner. At that time, only skin and bones remained. It's still tickling all over my body. The skin breaks as soon as it is caught. I looked at a few hospitals, but it didn't work. Grandpa knew about me. I suggested that my mother go to the man of God and have a look. Actually, my mom is a person. He is an atheist himself. She refused to go. In the end, it's Grandpa. Secretly found one of our local gods. If you want to say whether that god has the ability or not, I don't know. In a word, he's a bun seller. Usually occasionally, I will also show others feng shui, fooling the general country old man and old lady. It's no problem. After the god came, after giving me a look, Say there's one thing missing from our house. So the town is not a resident. I was scared by the imp. What's missing? There is a house in the countryside called a hall house. This is what we later called the living room. The hall of the house at that time. It's all when the door is open and you go in. Boxy. Ordinary people. A calligraphy or painting will be hung on the front wall of this room. Some are portraits of Grandpa Mao. Some are immortals. There are also landscapes. The painting is also accompanied by a couplet. This thing is called the middle hall. This nave painting. The earliest was for aesthetic purposes. Later it evolved. This room is a sign of inhabitation. Tell those lonely ghosts. There are people living here. Don't come here. And then. Our house has just been painted. There is no painting in the middle hall. Shinhan said that there is a board and an eye. My mom, an atheist, was also a little shaken. Just ask what to do. After Shinhan received a red envelope of 20 yuan, gave a talisman, burn to ashes, flush, let me drink it. This talisman, I found out later. It is indeed a talisman. It's called the Heavenly Master Fu. But what about its symbols? There are only shapes. There is no branding. So it's useless at all. After I drank that bowl of water, severe pain in the stomach began. There were convulsions. In the middle of the night, he was rushed to the hospital for rescue, to save his life. And then the man. I was so scared that I didn't dare to come out to sell steamed buns for a few days. I'm afraid that my mother will find him desperately. The trustee sent the red envelope back. I don't dare to come out and show off anymore. For this matter, my mom almost had a face-to-face with my grandfather. It was very unpleasant. But in the hospital, my condition has not improved. Later, he also fell into a coma. It's the same as my aunt back then. Doctors can't find a specific cause. It's the same after going to many hospitals. After my grandmother found out that I was sick, I suggested that my mother go to Zawinbin to take a look. My mom started with it. Still dead and alive. In the end, there is really no way. Let my dad go and ask Zawinbin. Come and give it a try. Annie's thing. She knows that too, but in her bones, she never believed it. Right now, it's a rush to the doctor. When Zawinbin came, I've been taken into my own home. He first asked me about my situation. He began to ask me, "Where have you been lately?" I don't know how. My first reaction at the time, it's the general's temple. But because I'm afraid of being scolded, so I never dared to tell my family. For the uncle in front of him, I'm relieved. I told him, I went to that general's temple that day, and what you see in the temple. When my grandfather heard, after I climbed into the general's temple, I almost fell out of my chair in fright. One bite at a time. Little Zuzu, you're really a man. Wenbin said. Say that what I estimate is not ordinary blood. I can't see through it. So there's nothing you can do today. I have to wait until the next day to go to the temple. Only after seeing it will you know. When he heard, when Shinhan gave me a picture to flush the water, he said it was all a deception. There is no symbol of the Great Seal. Not only did it not work, instead, it makes those things very off-putting. So my illness got worse. It made my mom hate it again. I almost rushed out, demolished their bun shop. Wenbin stayed at our house that night. It's strange to say, that night was after I got sick. One of the most soundly nightly sleeping. What's next? My mom told me. Early the next morning, Wenbin was taken by my father. Went to that general temple. When Wenbin saw the temple, take a few steps back. It seems that there is something really wrong. Unexpectedly, I actually saw this thing here. My dad asked what was wrong. Wenbin didn't answer. Just asked my dad, do you know the origin of this general temple? My dad shook his head and said he didn't know. Wenbin looked at the already modeled wall, sighed, This may not be a general's temple at all. This is a Taoist temple. It's just that this way is not the right way. It's an evil way. After that, he told my dad to go back and find some people ready to open. The main hall gate has been closed for many years. What about himself? Then you have to go back and prepare something. After returning to my house, Wenbin started talking to my dad, told a little about this general's temple. So who is Wenbin? This starts with the Taoism of our country. The Taoism that is circulating now, it is mainly composed of 3 sects. They are the first one, the truth of the truth, temple truth. Among them we are often on TV. I saw it in a novel. There is a very famous Taoist sect. It's called the Maoshan faction. Also call them Maoshan Taoist. What about this Maoshan faction? It's really historical. The Maoshan sect is a Taoist sect. 1. During the Qiliang period of the Southern Dynasty, created by Taoist Tao Hongjing. Because in Maoshan, resident monastics, Zun San Mao Zhenjuan is the ancestor. That's why it's called the Maoshan faction. This school majored in Shangqing, Lingbao, and the 3 emperors and other scriptures. Bong the primordial king. Taiwei heavenly emperor, emperor of the later Holy Plantagenet. Taishang Laojun and others are the supreme gods. Advocate for private gods. Chanting, cultivating merit. Now Xiaobi Valley. Guidance and teaching. In the Northern Song Dynasty, the Maoshan faction and the Longhu Mountain and the River Make Mountains. It is also one of the 3 major Fulu schools of Taoism. It is known as the 3 Mountains Fulu. After the Yuan dynasty, it was merged into the Zhengyi faction. That is, the current one. The chief founder of the Maoshan faction. It is Tao Hongjing. Later, it was passed on to the Stolen Gold Mage. And this Stolen Gold Mage. Later, he accepted a lay disciple. It's called Lin Zhengyang. He taught many of his Taoist methods. Later, I don't know why, Lin Zhengyang was driven down the mountain. Lin Zhengyang devoted his life to cultivation, founded this faction that originated in Maoshan, Tianzheng Dao. But the rule is passed down from generation to generation. It's always been low-key, passed down to the generation of Zaven soldiers. It's already the 27th generation. For historical reasons, so there's quite a bit of stuff. Nor has it been handed down. Zonbin's master. He was given some Taoist secrets and books, and the great seal of the head of the heavenly righteous path, and that 7-star sword. So he left the show. What about Wenbin? Exactly. It should be a teacher of the Maoshan faction. It is said that this great seal and the sword, it is cultivated by the master of the Dirty Sutra, given to the spirit of Zhangyang who was driven down the mountain. And then from generation to generation, it has become the token of the head of the righteous path of this day. During the Cultural Revolution, the 4 roles were broken. Wenbin's master naturally belongs to feudal superstitions. After being locked up in the cowshed, he starved to death. At that time, Wenbin's father was a cattle herder. Look at him, pitiful. Secretly brought some sweet potatoes and steamed buns for him to shock. I don't want to be discovered by the people in the production team. He was charged with fornicating with feudal superstitionists. Catch and go to the streets to criticize. I heard that Wenbin's father is strong. Death does not admit guilt. He was beaten to death. His daughter-in-law couldn't stand the rumors. I went with it. Left the small Wenbin alone. After the old way is released. So they took him as an apprentice. Within a few years, something had already been done. I don't want Master to die early. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't had time to be taught. Only a pile of manuscripts that survived the flames of the Cultural Revolution remained, and the great seal sword hidden on the roof of the cowshed. Wenbin is holding these things. On weekdays, I also do private research. Don't dare to show the countertop. Therefore, there are many links that are still in a state of ignorance. As for the Maoshan faction in the Orthodox Tianyi faction, later, there was a big change. What about the folk? Mao Shan is regarded as a sacred mountain for worship. Taoist warlock regard Mao Shan as a holy place for seeking the law. It's strange to say. Just when the whole people were crazy about me. In the surrounding area of Mao Shan. Exactly. It is the southern part of Mao Shan Mountain. There was a black gate. It also calls itself Mao Shan Mountain. In the Ming Dynasty, it was also written as Mao Shan or Mao Mountain. They believe in the great god of Taoism, Taishang Laojun. And what about the patriarch of the Kaipai? It is Li Laojun, who is respected as the master of Mao Shan, also known as Bai Zhe Laojun. Friends who have studied some Fa may know. There is a famous Zhao Ho Holy Lord in the Femin. Some are written as General Zhao Ho. This Zhao Ho is in folklore. It is the son-in-law of our master Mao Shan. The spells passed on by this sect generally follow the regular route. For example, straight riding, bottle window, painting sheep, roof water, retreating, etc. Most are similar to the common law. But the difference is some so-called sorcery. For example, the Jade Girl washes the gods. That is a kind of dream-proud spell. There is also a method of the first grandson. A beautiful woman strips away. It is often mentioned in novels. The phantom of the suspicious soul is the method of this door. Other than that, recruit the beasts and snakes and apes in the mountains. It is also in this method that it is secretly circulated. I would also like to talk about the so-called raising of little ghosts. It is often mentioned in Hong Kong movies. Take a tour of the corpse. Practice corpses and raise imps. There are indeed similar spells in Mao Shan. But it's completely different from what was introduced in the novel, film, and television. The Mao Shan faction that I'm going to talk about next. That is, it is now circulating in Liangwang. Jiangxi, Zhujiang also has Fujin, Mao Shan in Hong Kong and other places. As a matter of fact, they are not from San Mao. It's not from Li Laojun. It is from the White Lotus sect. A number of small sects evolved during the Qing dynasty. Speaking of the White Lotus sect, everyone seems to have thought of it. Sorcery and rebellion. But during the Qing dynasty, most of the White Lotus sect has gone underground. It is rare to come out and fight politics again. A large part has been converted into a common faith. Among them is the Qinglian sect. It is the most powerful one in the practice of magic. The gate is historical. We'll use Chimanduanjia. Familiar with the change spell. Believers through the ages. Mostly uses spells to turn water into mantras. Treat ordinary people. Push to kill. So among the people, it has a good reputation. The best in the honest church. It is the kung fu of seance and possession. Of course, their term is called divine fist. There is only a bowl of water. Burn sandalwood. Recite a mantra on a water bowl. After the draft, it is very possessed. Self-capable boxing and sticking. It's called Shaolin Shenda. It is open to both men and women. So now there is a Mao Shan faction. That's why there is this kind of kung fu that God fights. Now on the altar of the South. It is written with Shaolin Patriarch, or the Shaolin Puritan. He is the patriarch of this sect, and not the monk of the Shaolin Temple in Songshan, Hunan. For the sake of obscurity, later generations have been talking about it. It is only written as the true master of Shaolin. It can be seen with the White Lotus True Sect Master. It has an obvious white lotus color. But because the name of their sect is really eye-catching, the Qing government arrested them everywhere, so I just changed the name. It's called Mao Shan. Why? Because in the history of the White Lotus sect, there used to be a leader named Mao Ziyuan. The hairs are the same, implicitly in this sense. Speaking of which, you should know something. There is also a faction of Mao Shan patriarchs. Legend has it that he is a burden monk. It's strange to say. A spell method. How can a monk be an ancestor? Legends. Because of this monk, it is born out of a floating light. Born with a supernatural. What about this burden monk? Not only bizarre births, the fate that followed was also very bizarre. It is said that he studied under Yuan Gong of Yunming Mountain, learned the spells in the Book of Wishes. Yuan Gong is actually a white ape. It is the protagonist of the White Ape Escape story. It is said that this white ape guards the secret book of the Heavenly Palace. The whole book is about the method of supernatural change. And it's very simple. Learn for a while. Yuan Gong passed on the contents of this book to the Danzi monk. Then he burned the book. So the burdened monk went down the mountain with a lot of skills. Therefore, there are spells that talk about supernatural changes and flying to the heavens and the earth. Most of them are from the Dead Mao Mountain. But what about this sect? How did it come to be called Mao Shan? It cannot be verified. But this method in the Yunming Mountain spell system, there must be a very close connection. That's it. The various factions of the Mao Shan faction in various places have been formed. Strictly speaking, the orthodox Mao Shan faction is only now in one line. But what about Zhao Wenbin's lineage? It can be said that he is an illegitimate child. It is inextricably linked with Zhang Li. And then because of the war, Chinese Taoism is also gradually in the long river of history, towards fragmentation. Someone who really understands the Tao, there are very few. Someone who knows a little bit of fur, dare to call yourself a master, give people a look at feng shui, do the practical thing. The current Taoist priest in the Taoist temple completely evolved into a profession and a site. Those who go on the path of monasticism, it's almost invisible. All right, straight to the point. In the afternoon of the same day, my dad had the tools with him, and Zanbing went to the general's temple. After smashing the copper lock in a few clicks, this hall has been closed for an unknown number of years. Open to the world again. A musty smell rushed so much that the two of them hurriedly covered their noses. Sweep it at a glance, except for the coffin in the middle of the main hall. Nothing else, even during the day. Such a scene is indeed deep enough. Zaven took the lead and walked in. When he noticed the murals on the walls, obviously a little surprised, I thought about it for a moment. He moved his gaze to another wall. That wall is what I saw. The walls are painted with characters. It's just his look. It's just an afternoon. It's like you're settled. My dad watched him like this from the sidelines. I didn't dare to speak, can only stand on the side. Until the sun goes down. Zhao Wenbin turned his head and said to my dad, "Let's go." My dad didn't dare to ask. Zhao Wenbin told my dad to lock the door again. Tell my dad that he's going to go back to his hometown first, and gave my dad a talisman. Let my dad stick it at the door, and let my dad watch over me. Let me stop running around. He will be back in a few days. Zhao Wenbin disappeared for 3 days temporarily. I did look better in those days. You can eat something. My mom seemed to see hope. Worship the Bodhisattva at home all day long. 3 days later, Zhao Wenbin came to my house again. He came to see me first. Then he motioned for my dad to come out. Zhao Wenbin told my dad, according to his judgment, this temple of generals may have 2 origins. The first statement is recorded in ancient books. He went back and consulted the manuscript left by his master, found such a passage. General's Temple. There are statues of the ancestors of the 3 Qing dynasty in the temple. Ruisho is hidden. For the sake of the general, he was too murderous. Turn to evil. Fan knife washes blood. Heaven is bloody. Kill too much. The blade dies every day. Bloody self. Dirtier 3 points. It's been a long time since it's been evil of its own. It's like cultivating. Seep into the blood. All in one. Always enchanted. It's hard to overcome in the world. Therefore, the Son of Heaven. It can't be suppressed with the dragon Shi of the Son of Heaven. Killed. There is often resentment towards dying for the sake of the killer. Therefore, he is often cremated secretly after death. Then there are capable people. Stealing his poems and burying them in the mountains. Often ask the Taoist priest to relieve the murderous spirit. Drink resentment. Therefore, it is always wonderful. In later generations, there were Taoist priests who were difficult to suppress. It is often suppressed with 3 clean and righteous spirits. Deliberately Ruatio will be a disaster. In other words, the temple may have been in a certain era. There was a general, becoming a demon after death. In order to suppress this killing god, this temple was specially built for suppression. Because of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom period, we are almost a slaughtered village here. Therefore, the historical materials of that time cannot be found. It is impossible to verify who this general is. There is also a saying, this temple is simply a Taoist temple. And it's probably that it's that. Legend has it that it was built by a monk who has the power to reach the sky. It must have been a Taoist temple with strong incense. And according to Zhao Wenbin's observations, here is a water dragon and a small green dragon. Where 2 faucets collide, it is said that feng shui is excellent. There shouldn't be such a big uproar. Zhao Wenbin continued, this burden is after the monk West District. At one time, the sect was passed down, until later. I don't know what's going on, led to this sect stunt. Until the later Taiping Heavenly Kingdom period, the people here, after it's all gone, another sect migrated. This branch should be the Qinglian sect. In order to prevent the dragonflies at that time from exterminating it, therefore, it is known as one of the holy lords of Maoshan woman Zhaoho, so the place was renamed the General Temple. Continue to hide your eyes and ears and do some things. Because Zhao Wenbin was on that blackened wall, I vaguely saw the pattern of the holy decree of the Qinglian sect, White Lotus. But what made him puzzled was that the same pattern as the characters. In his judgment, it was written by a special kind of Taoist script. What about ordinary people? It's simply incomprehensible. If it is a person who is attached to the Tao, will be ingested. It is very likely to be the legendary Heavenly Palace Cheats Rui book. It's just, in his present ways, I still can't understand the meaning. But even so, it also made a qualitative leap in his cultivation realm. My dad didn't understand it either, but his main concern was what happened to me. Zhao Wenbin said, I show no signs of evil spirits. Open sky eye observation. I only saw a black cloud and a flying cloud above my head churning up and down. The reason for this is not yet to break the vows. Further investigation may be required to find out. As the saying goes, do not enter the tiger's den. Because of the tiger, Wenbin decided, wait until the middle of the night, when the yin qi is at its heaviest, go to the general's temple again, to study the scriptures frankly. He was well prepared. It's not just one person. I also specially instructed, let my dad find 2 pig killers, pig killing knife in hand, 1 pesos, then. There has been no strong attack in the countryside. My dad went with the shotgun he had at home. The soldiers didn't wait to enter the gate. He drew out the 7-star sword and the great eagle. Ahead of the curve, 2 pig killers stood guard outside the door. Just in case. My dad was standing next to him. This time, Wenbin didn't choose to look at the wall. Instead, he went straight to the unknown coffin. In his consciousness, he felt that there must be something wrong with this coffin. Before switching, Zhao Wenbin first put a stick of incense on the coffin. If this incense can be burned smoothly, it proves that the coffin will not be in big trouble. If the incense is halfway burned, it will be extinguished. That means that the Lord in this coffin is no longer very happy. You're messing around here. Let's get out there. After the incense is lit, burn half of the time. Not the slightest bit of the same. Just the dark clouds that night obscured the moon. It looks very dark. The tools for lighting are 3 miner's lamps. It is located in this small temple, but I always feel that I can't shine on the edge. It's as if it's being devoured. Zaven soldiers to the wall again, and spread the murals of Lao Jun, a stick of incense. Then it's time to switch hands. Zhao Wenbin is a Taoist priest. Gray hair is naturally done a lot. This coffin is in his eyes. It's like taking apart an ordinary cabinet. It makes no difference. He used the steel skewers he brought. After preeing open the bamboo shoots on the top, he was going to move the coffin. Lifted a handful. Found a sink very much. Wince didn't move, so I called a pig killer to help. One of the two men looked up. One person lifts the tail. Just when I was about to exert my strength, suddenly, I found that the column box inserted in front of the mural of Taisheng Laojun was extinguished. Zhao Wenbin secretly screamed badly, motioned to the pig to put down the coffin board, looked down at the box that was stuck in front of the coffin. The pillar box was not extinguished, but it's about to burn out. This is strange. It is said that he is also a Taoist apprentice. This grandfather's box was for him. This dead man has no opinion. I still have opinions on how to go to this grandfather. Zhao Wenbin walked over to the mural. Just as he walked towards the mural, suddenly, a gunshot pierced the sky. In the middle of the night, a gunshot rang out in the dark hall. The shock can be imagined. Everyone turned to look at my dad. What about my dad? His eyes were fixed on the direction Wenbin was walking. The muzzle of the gun is pointing at that wall. The shotgun shot holes filled the walls in an instant. Zhao Wenbin asked my dad what was going on. My dad said there was an old man with a white beard who was about to reach out and touch Zhao Wenbin's head. As soon as he saw that the situation was not right, he shot directly. Zhao Wenbin immediately retreated. The two pig killers also stood up together when they heard the gunshots. For men were in the temple like this. Zhao Wenbin took out the compass and put it down. I saw the needle on the compass shaking back and forth. This shows that there is something going on around them. And he, a cultivator, did not notice the white-bearded old man. Just while he was still ringing, a voice rang out. Take a look. It is the dust medicine that kills pigs in our village. Everyone looked in the direction he was pointing. On the bullet hole left by the wall just now, a dark red liquid flowed out. It's like blood. This is the case. Don't say it's the pig killer in me. Even Zavenbing was frightened. What's more, in this kind of unclear general temple, the four of them stood like this. I didn't dare to move in the temple. Wait until the smoke clears. Except for the pervasive smell of gunpowder, there is also the endless smell of blood. Although the two pig killers are accustomed to the smell of blood on weekdays. But what about the moment? But he also covered his nose. One of them couldn't help but start retching. Because the smell of blood is overwhelming. Wenbin frowned. The guy in his hand is about to step forward. 3 high-brightness miners' lamps shine on the wall. Snow-white light mingled with mottled walls and bulging blood. The unspeakable meaning rose from my dad's back. He quickly changed into a deer egg and followed. This deer egg is usually used to hunt wild boars. A wild boar of 300 caddies within 50 meters of a boar will surely die if it is hit. He's usually a bold man. It's a bit of a leg fight at the moment. Zonbin, who walked to the wall, didn't dare to be careless. Directly recited one of the Taoist mantras. Worship heaven and earth mantra. Heaven and earth are natural. Bad luck is scattered. East Central Shuanqiu. Huang Lang Taiyuan. 8 microgods. Make me natural. Claim to be reinstated. 9 days of high school. The front building is huge. Onggao Taixian. Chop the blood in the abdomen. There are thousands of people. Akiyama divine mantra. Originally in the text. Eat zone. Over and over again. Again. Peace of mind. Text. The demon king binds his hands. A look for the guards. The obscurity dissipated. Theft lasts forever. Miracles are like laws. 6. After 3 spells, the smell of blood in the temple, it seems to be a lot smaller. Wenbin beckoned the pig killer to come over again. Take out the stick that you are going to use to switch it. Plunged headlong into the bullet hole just now. Push hard. Sure enough, a wall brick. It fell down with a bang. The next scene. so that everyone present does not change color. My dad and one of the pig killers vomit directly. I saw that in the middle of the wall was clearly a wax slip in the shape of a human. The blood was from several bullet holes above. Outflow. In the walls of this ancient temple, why is there a wax arrow? Things have come to this point. I'm afraid it's beyond everyone's imagination. Could it be that this humanoid wax arrow, is it really a person? That's when it happened. Suddenly, there was the sound of a wooden plank moving with a click. Before everyone came to their senses, the wax arrows on the opposite side were no longer powerful. It fell down with a snap. It fell right in front of Zavenbing. Zavenbing shouted, "Not good. Hurry up and take a look." The coffin board that hadn't been pried just now, there are already some gaps. Zaven immediately turned over with a key, flashed to the coffin, push it over. The coffin board that has been broken with a gap, recover. Then he instructed the two pig killers, press down on the coffin board one after the other, and let them put the pig-killing knife in their hands. Insert it into the coffin board. Then he pulled out the ink fountain. Pop a net on the coffin as fast as you can. Legends. This ink fountain was invented by the carpenter Luban. Ink bucket trapped in the coffin. It is said to be to calm the zombies in the coffin and get up. It's like a bundle of clues. After doing all this, Zawenbin went over to inspect the brocade, although wrapped in a thick layer of wax, but I could still vaguely tell that there was a person inside. Zawenbin made a backward gesture. Everyone withdraws together. Before leaving, he locked the door, then went back to my house. I have to cross a bridge before going to my house. Before crossing the bridge, Zawenbin took out 3 talismans. One person gave one. Let the 3 of them take it back and boil the water and drink it. Wait until you get to my house. Let my dad notify the village chief to call the police the next day. Then I went to sleep. Early the next morning, the head of the police station came to the village with people. Open the temple door. The director asked the forensic doctor to uncover the layer of wax on the spot. Open it and take a look. It was really the corpse of an old man, dressed in a robe. A purple robe sewn with gold and silver thread. It has been soaked in blood and blackened. Overnight air exposure. The skin has begun to darken. According to the news that came out of the institute later, the body was eventually taken away by the provincial archaeological team. Not long after, we have a provincial archaeological team here. In that time, my condition was good and bad. Zawenbin said, "We'll have to wait until the archaeological team is done to have an answer, because the answer is in that coffin." And what about the coffin? It has now been protected. Outsiders are not allowed to enter the confines of the general temple. The drumming corps was stationed in our village during that time. Coke spoiled a lot of villagers. This place, it was originally remote. A group of old men and women gathered around after eating. Among them, there were many people who participated in the burning of the general's temple, while spitting foam and boasting about the heroic deeds of the year, while teasing with the women of the village about stealing men. Provoked the group of archaeological team members from the province to have a restless life.